Chapter 3, The Expert Calling and Lifestyle. In coming chapters, I will reveal how experts start out and exactly how they get their message out to the world and how they get paid for it. I will also address the number one objection I know you have right now. Gosh, Brendan, I'm not an expert, and who would pay me anything for what I know? Don't worry, we'll get to your childhood fears of inadequacy soon enough. I'm kidding. We will address this concern because I know most people tragically undervalue what they know or have never actually thought about what they know and how valuable it could be for others. But before we get to your specific expertise, I want to paint a picture of the broader expert industry so that you can determine if you even want to be part of it. Trust me, you can become a highly paid expert in any field on any topic, which I will prove to you in coming chapters. For now, we should discuss whether this is really a calling and a career you're interested in. Yes, I believe becoming a millionaire messenger is a calling and a real career. It is a calling because I deeply believe it's part of our life's purpose to learn and experience the world and then turn behind us and lend a hand to those who are trying to get ahead as well. If you have struggled through something and survived, you should help those now struggling. If you have achieved the impossible, make it possible for others to achieve the same. If you have spent years figuring something out, why not shorten someone else's learning curve? If you've cracked the code to success in any area, why not give everyone the secret? Obviously, all of this has a help others bent to it, and for that I'm often criticized. Some in our community have called me a bleeding heart and a softie because I often focus more on the mission than on the money. But I believe that coming from a place of service is not only a strong spiritual practice, but also a good business practice. If you care about helping others, then they will believe in you, and yes, they will buy from you. I believe everyone has a message and a life story or experience that can help other people. You have a message too, even if it is yet undefined. You have something in you that you have been told to deliver to the world, your unique voice and contribution. You have been called to deliver it, and this book will help with that. In terms of a career, there are fewer stable and lucrative jobs in the world than that of being an expert. People will always need help and advice in their personal and professional lives. Every generation needs parenting advice, real estate advice, marketing advice, relationship advice, business advice, love advice, financial advice, career advice, technology advice, spiritual advice, and so on. There's no limit to how many people search for and need your knowledge and information. This point has been proven by the enduring and powerfully impactful careers of our industry's leaders and legends. When an expert finds his or her real message and delivers it with care, compassion, and consistency, the world takes note. Consider the often told stories of these experts. Tony Robbins has been inspiring people to find their personal power for over 30 years, and he has reached millions of people worldwide and built a $50 million empire under his brand in the process. Stephen Covey took 7 simple habits for being effective and built $1 billion training company while keeping the 7 habits of highly effective people on the business bestseller list for over 21 years. Zig Ziglar has given essentially the same success speech for almost 40 years, and he still turns down business all the time. Rick Warren turned his spiritual advice into the best-selling hardcover nonfiction book of all time, The Purpose-Driven Life, with over 30 million copies sold. He built a 20,000-member congregation in California, and in 2008, he hosted the Civil Forum on the Presidency, featuring presidential candidates Barack Obama and John McCain. David Bach started giving financial advice to the public after leaving his corporate job in the financial sector and turned it into the #1 financial advice brand in the world with 11 consecutive national best-selling books, including 2 consecutive #1 New York Times bestsellers, Start Late, Finish Rich, and The Automatic Millionaire. In all, his Finish Rich books have been published in more than 15 languages with more than 7 million copies in print worldwide. David is now on a mission to get America out of debt. To this end, he has teamed up with Equifax, one of the nation's leading credit reporting agencies, to show consumers how to get out of debt faster. Over the years, David's corporate partners have purchased over 1.5 million copies of his books. He's a regular contributor on NBC's Today. Susie Orman, Jim Cramer, and Dave Ramsey are other well-known and enduring names in the financial advice area. John Gray took a simple idea that men and women often seem like they're on different planets and turned it into a 3-decade phenomenon of books, speeches, workshops, coaching, and online videos under the Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus empire. Oprah and her friends and contemporaries have dominated television and books for decades, from Rachel Ray on cooking advice to Dr. Phil on life and relationship advice, to Marianne Williamson on spiritual advice, to Bob Greene on exercise advice, to Tim Gunn on fashion advice, to Nate Berkus on home and garden advice, to Dr. Mehmet Oz on health advice. Of course, many of these people are now household names, and many are now best-selling authors and celebrities on television. I mention them here because they have name recognition and can give a face to the expert industry. They also illustrate the diversity of expertise that they have all mastered and monetized, from personal development to personal finance, from relationships to lifestyle design, from business to spirituality. What's important to know about these examples is that none of these people started out rich and famous. They started out just like you. What they did next was build their expertise, learn to package and promote their message, and figure out a way to serve as many people as possible. You do not have to aspire to be a celebrity expert. Maybe that's not your thing. Personally, I've avoided traditional media up until recently when I felt a new style and new leadership were required in the industry. I've seen and met tens of thousands of other experts who enjoy a meaningful and abundant life in the expert community and are not famous. You might not know their names, but their work is helping thousands of people through their how-to information and products. They have real careers and they make real money. They are on stages across the country. They're doling out their advice online. They're training companies in your local business loop. And they have books, CDs, DVDs, and training materials galore. If you have ever attended my Experts Academy seminar, you will meet hundreds of everyday people doing this successfully and happily. Many on topics you never imagined someone could be a successful expert in. I love the story of Lori Marrero. Lori had a passion for organizing her and her friends' homes. People would go to her house and say, "Lori, how in the world do you keep everything so organized?" Unlike most people, Lori is a fantastic listener and unconsciously understood that if a lot of people ask you about something, ding, there's business there as an expert. So Lori started positioning herself as an organizing expert and started coaching people and organizations on how to better organize their homes and workplaces. Yes, she became an expert organizer. She created an online program on her topic and eventually wrote a best-selling book, The Clutter Diet, The Skinny on Organizing Your Home and Taking Control of Your Life. Lori is now the national spokesperson for Goodwill Industries International and is the ambassador of Goodwill's Donate movement. She has also done spokesperson work for companies including Staples and Microsoft. She's a frequently sought-after expert for national media, including Good Housekeeping, CNBC, and Women's Day. The Container Store and other retailers carry Lori's products nationwide. Now, here's a question. Have you ever heard of Lori? Many have not. Many of you hearing me read this right now have never heard of me either. You see, there are tens of thousands of us out there, and often people do not discover us until they have a problem they need fixed. Can't organize your life? You find Lori. Can't get your message out there? You stumble upon Brendan. This is the way of the non-famous expert world. As it has been said, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Here's another story. Marcy Shimoff was a woman who was simply happy. People were always asking her, "Marcy, why are you so happy?" Her reply was, "No reason not to be." Just like Lori, Marcy listened to people and started speaking, coaching, and writing on the subject of happiness. She eventually became a New York Times bestselling author. Her book title? Happy for No Reason. Lori and Marcy's stories not only illustrate that anyone can become an expert on any topic, but also provide an important lesson. The best way to find your area of expertise is ask yourself, what is it that people are always asking me how I do? Or, what are the questions people always seem to be asking when they deal with the subject of blank? Answer those questions and serve others, and you have an expert business. How about Roger Love? Have you ever heard of him? I hadn't until I started looking for an expert to help me with my voice. I started losing my voice during my 4-day seminars, and I was scared my career was over. My friend Tony Robbins mentioned Roger to me, and then I discovered an expert in an area of expertise I would have never even heard of. Roger turns out to be the #1 vocal coach in the world. He does coaching, speaking, and training, and he has a slew of fantastic books and CDs on vocal performance. I would have never heard of him, but he's coached some folks you may have heard of, including John Mayer, Reese Witherspoon, Tyra Banks, Maroon 5, Eminem, and many of the top actors and singers in the world. Rick Frischman was a retiree from the world of public relations. When he decided to have a second career and reflected on his first, he realized his favorite clients from the PR world had always been book authors. So he began a second career as an expert on book publicity and publishing. And he created a series of books and workshops called Author 101 to help new authors succeed. He made a fortune in the process, but more importantly, he helped thousands of authors learn how to get their message out there through our most honored medium, the art of writing. Frank Kern was a dog trainer from Macon, Georgia. One day he discovered how to sell dog training advice online and started making some good money doing that. Soon people were asking, Frank, how do you do that online information marketing? Thus was born his career as an internet marketing expert. Today, Frank is the highest paid internet marketing strategist in the world, and his online promotions regularly bring in $6 million for his clients. He's also helped craft one of the largest internet marketing campaigns, which made more than $20 million in a few weeks. Shane and Chantal Valentine were everyday parents with a beautiful baby named Alina. They were also foodies, and they wanted Alina to grow up eating healthy, fresh food instead of that muck that comes in jars. So they started cooking fresh organic baby food for Alina, spoiling her with great food cuisine from around the world. Soon people were asking, hey, how do you cook all those great baby food recipes? Thus was born their new career as baby cuisine experts. Since then, they've created healthy cuisine programs and promotions with Cliff Bar, Pixar Studios, and Whole Foods. Who would have imagined they could have become experts in baby cuisine? I could literally share thousands of stories of everyday people like Lori, Marcy, Roger, Rick, Frank, and Shane and Chantal who have become successful and highly influential experts on every imaginable topic. I meet them all year long through my Experts Academy events. But this is a book about you. So I'm going to spend less time on inspirational stories and more time on instructing you personally. If you want to meet hundreds of people in this industry, just join us at Experts Academy someday. You can go to expertsacademy.com to learn more. From here forward, though, this book is about you. Let's now get to the work of deciding if this is a community you really want to be a part of. Here are 9 reasons I think the expert industry is the finest industry in the world to have a career in. 1, your work is based entirely on your passion and knowledge. The expert industry is without a doubt one of the most passionate and energetic industries in the world. Just come to one of our seminars and you will see that this is true. Why? Because ours is one of the few industries outside the music industry that's founded upon its members finding and sharing their unique voice with the world. It turns out that sharing and teaching is a true art that ignites a deep well of passion within the human spirit. This passion is one reason so many fans and followers are inspired by experts. They are attracted to the energy and zest for life and business that experts show the world. But this does not mean our industry is solely based on a wild and an exuberant rah-rah energy. Our passion is matched and grounded by wisdom and intelligence. The truth is that you can't succeed in our industry unless you have knowledge that you can help other people overcome their challenges or move from point A to point B. So here's the essential interview questions I would ask anyone seeking a career in the expert industry. Are you deeply passionate about your topic and about inspiring other people to improve? What knowledge do you have about life or business that could help other people? 2, your work activities center on relating and creating. How do most people spend their work days in the real world? How would you describe their 2 principal work activities? Well, in the expert community, we spend our time on only 2 things. First, relating with our audience to gain their trust and understand their needs and ambitions. And second, creating useful information, content, and products that add value to our audience and teach them how to live a better life or grow their business. That is pretty much our entire quote unquote job. Even our sales and marketing is really just relating with our customers, giving them value and sharing information with them through our websites, blogs, articles, products, and videos. You do not have to be a sales genius and over-the-top charismatic or a snake oil salesman to succeed in our industry despite old myths. The reality is that we are seeing a massive influx of new members in our community precisely because more and more people are seeing that sharing their message can be done in this new era of marketing without pushing others to believe in us. People are seeing that our sales are in fact very soft and service-driven. I can say with authority that across topics and niches, it is readily apparent that all of our industry's sales campaigns that are working essentially run like this. We send out free information that adds value to people's lives, and then at some point say, hey, if you liked that free information, I also have a product or program that you can purchase that goes much deeper. How easy is that? To win, we experts just have to know our customers well. We need to have a compassion for those struggling with certain challenges, and we need to create a map for them to follow to improve their situation, whether at home or at work. It's a real relationship business. The better we know our customers and what they need, the more we can tailor our messages and methods to help them. Once we know our customers, our job is in creating unique and valuable how-to information for them. I typically call this packaging your information, meaning creating helpful articles, webinars, videos, audios, workshops, coaching programs, and so forth that deliver your message. The creation part of this business is what I believe activates the most energy and artistic expression in our work. You'll often hear people say at my seminars loudly screaming with joy, "I'm a creator!" as they realize they can once again tap into the creative and expressive part of their lives that was cut off in their quote-unquote real world work. Because our work is so focused on creating and relating, I like to say that the expert community is truly the first real landing place for what Richard Florida termed the creative class. Most creatives around the world wish they could create more things, especially idea-driven concepts that help people live better lives. Well, that's what we do full time. Experts are the most idea-driven and content-creating segment of the economy, period. We live in the information world, and we are creating it all. We are the artists and the drivers of the information age. 3, you work anywhere, anytime, starting now. When Tim Ferriss wrote The 4-Hour Work Week, he had no idea how big it would get or how many people would find his approach completely unimaginable. But of course it was easy for Tim to imagine a 4-hour work week. He's an expert. Armed with only a laptop and a phone, most experts can make millions of dollars working anywhere they want and anytime they want. I know this to be true. When I began, all I had were those 2 gadgets. I had no money, no influence, no name recognition, no rich uncles, nothing. I was armed with only a message and a dream, and soon my computer became my only needed resource. My laptop became my ATM, allowing me to write articles and books and create and post webinars, videos, and online programs that people paid me for. My phone allowed me to do teleseminars or group conference calls that people pay to join in on. I did 100% of this from home. Today, while running $5 million brands in the expert industry, I still work mostly from home or at Expert Studio, a condo where I set up a video studio. The cost of a nice video studio set up today, by the way, is less than $2,000. Now it's going down to $1,500. Very few startup opportunities in the world outside of internet-based businesses require so little in terms of capital investment or resources. Based on my experience in the expert space and our alumni surveys from Experts Academy, I have previously estimated that 92% of our industry works from home. We often say, message, check. Knowledge, check. Audience to serve, check. Laptop and phone, expect checks. 4, you work with whom you want. As entrepreneurs, experts hire and fire anyone they want and can include letting go of rude customers. We are not at the mercy of horrible bosses, weird coworkers, corporate kiss-ups, or any other ladder climber who plays office politics. Because it is an industry based solely on our individual passion, our knowledge, and our ability to relate to our audience and create valuable information for them, we control our own fate. We are entrepreneurial experts, and all the benefits of being an entrepreneur thus apply. The benefits of being in the expert community is not just that we don't have to work with others whom we may find unpleasant, though. It's also that we can choose whom we do work with. Those in the expert space are incredibly open to collaborations, joint ventures, content sharing, and promotional partnerships. Because we all know that our first mission is to share our message. We'll take almost any opportunity to share our message, whether it's being interviewed by each other or being featured in each other's books or product packages. I'll give you an example. My friend Tony Robbins was working on creating a new course he called The New Money Masters. He wanted to interview people who had really mastered online information marketing. Now, he could easily create that program himself, but knowing that this is a creative and collaborative community, he chose to interview other experts. Tony asked me to participate, and I happily agreed. I flew out to his video studio the very next day, and we shot a great interview. I was not paid for it, and I did not ask to be paid for it because I know that sharing my message is job number one, and because in this community, it's great to collaborate. In all, Tony interviewed 12 of the best in the online marketing space, including myself and my friends Frank Kern, Eben Pagan, John Reese, Dean Jackson, Jeff Walker, and Mike Koenigs, the man who first introduced many of us to Tony. The course went on to be a multi-million-dollar smash. I've appeared in 2 other formats for Tony, and he returned the favor by speaking and promoting my Experts Academy seminar. I share this example because it illustrates several points. First, experts are always open to sharing their expertise to get their message out there. Imagine the reality that you can work alongside your mentors and gurus. It's profoundly empowering. Second, because of the collaborative nature of the industry, you do not have to be the guru on every topic. You can just interview other experts. You see, I can't teach what Tony Robbins teaches, so I bring him in to teach my people his stuff, and he does the same with me. If I want to bring in an expert on any topic into my events or products or programs or feature their advice on my websites or webinars, those experts are only an email away. Experts are incredibly open and accessible people. This surprises newcomers all the time. Finally, it shows that if you make a real difference, as Tony has done since day one, then others will support you and help you out. I love that about this community. I've been blessed to work with everyone I ever dreamed of working with in the industry so far. My work has helped me meet presidents, spiritual leaders, celebrities, CEOs, and pioneers in almost every industry I've ever been curious about. The reality is that experts are so open to sharing their expertise is one of the greatest benefits of what we do. Later in this book, I'll candidly discuss how we need to be better about sharing insights about our businesses, not just our content areas of expertise. 5, your promotions are based on your promotions. I love this fact. As an expert, if you want to be paid more, you simply promote more, assuming, of course, you do a good job at it. Unlike the organizational pay-me-by-the-hour world, your pay promotions are not based on an uncontrollable thumbs up from your manager. Instead, your pay is based on how much are you doing to promote your message and information products and programs to the world. In general, the more promotions you do well, the more revenue you make and the more people you serve. That's why I'm always saying that you can make a difference and a fortune simply by promoting good advice and how-to information. This concept becomes more and more powerful as you gain more and more fans and followers. The bigger your audience, the bigger your revenues will be, assuming you're adding value, creating a deep and real relationship, and selling strategically and intelligently. These are all things we teach at Experts Academy. But don't worry, your pay is not solely based on the size of your subscriber list, as many newbies fear. We all started with no list, no fan base, no outlet for our voices. But we built more and more of a following the more value we added. The fearful emotions that come up from the reality of having a small list can be assuaged by my last point. You can work with others in the expert community. Never forget that other experts and outlets like the media have big audiences, and they can help you get your message out there. For example, you can be interviewed and promoted by other experts in your genre and share in any profits that you make together. I'll cover this concept called affiliate marketing later. Let me share this overall concept in motion. Every time I put together a promotion these days, I can usually make $200,000 with a few emails. The more emails I send, the more income I can make. Naturally, I have to ensure that I do not sell too much to my audience, but you get the point. And the smarter my promotions and the more I engage others to promote with me, the more people I can reach with my message and the more money I can make. Recently, I launched a new training program and made over $2 million in just 10 days. That was a nice quote-unquote promotion. As I shared before, you do not have to be intimidated by all this talk of promotions and marketing. All of our sales campaigns are essentially working like this. We send out free information that adds value to people's lives, and then at some point say, hey, if you like that free information, I also have a product or program that you can purchase that goes much deeper. That's a very empowering thing to know, and that's exactly how I recently made that $2 million. Now, I know that anytime I want to earn more income, I just have to add more value to the marketplace and then offer a related sale. I know that some people don't like me sharing financial numbers, by the way, and talking about money, but I believe it's important. I think that the larger culture needs to know that meaning and money can mix, and that as you make more money, you can help more people, and vice versa. 6, your pay equals the value you deliver, not the hours you work. Hourly work is a horrible reality for most people, but hourly work is not for well-trained experts. We are not paid by the hour for our worth. How do you charge for the invoice item changed my life in an hour? But by the value we give. It can take a tremendous amount of time for people from the corporate or traditional work world to understand this fact. It sure took me a long time. I remember receiving a phone call when I was first starting out from a man who had heard about my message. He asked me if I would be his life coach and help him think through his life and plan for something greater. He was 53 years of age, and I believe at the time I was half that age. We spoke for a while, and it seemed like he lacked clarity about who he was and where he wanted to go in life. I asked him a few questions that he felt were profound and helpful. At the end of the call, he asked how much I charged. I'd never really thought about it before, and sheepishly, I told him I'd never been a life coach or worked one-on-one with people. I had instead been a consultant to companies and an author of books at the time. Since I didn't know how to answer his question about pricing, I asked, based on what you are trying to do, how much do you think I should charge? He quickly replied, well, I hear that life coaches get paid $200 an hour. Let's start there. At that point, I almost fell out of my chair. $200 an hour? That is what a good lawyer gets paid, I thought. So I said, sure. That was a lot of money to me at the time. Within months, everything was going so well that other people started asking me to coach them. And in that amount of time, I heard about other life and business coaches who were charging between $300 and $1,000 per hour. So I raised my fees to $600 an hour and quickly had a full list of people to call and coach every month. Then I decided to raise my fee yet again, and soon thereafter, I had more clients. Within no time, I hated my life because I was on the phone, always kind of stuck to my ear. I loved coaching, but needed more variety and flexibility. So I raised my prices again, and at some point, I was literally charging $5,000 an hour for life coaching. Now, why in the world would someone pay anyone that much for 1 hour? It's simple. It's not about the minutes in the hour, but the difference in your life. If someone gives you ideas, information, strategies, and connections that can advance you forward in life and business, you're not looking at your watch and your wallet. For example, how much money would you spend to have an hour with a person who could radically improve the quality of your life for the rest of your life? How about a meeting with a person who had achieved $1 million more than you had in your business and was willing to tell you exactly how? I like to share this metaphor. Imagine you meet a woman on the street who is significantly happier than you. As she adjusts the box in her hands containing $1 million cash, she says, "Hey, I made $1 million doing what you do, and I did it in 1 year with half the resources you have. Would you be willing to put $1,000 in this box if I agreed to go to lunch with you for an hour or so and tell you exactly how I did it so that you can too? Knowing my audience, I'm sure you are rolling your eyes and would likely call the police in this situation, but you get the idea. Most people in the world would pay a lot of money to learn how to be happier and more successful. And what about those who would not? Simple. Wish them well and move on. They're not your customer. This time versus value idea operates in everything we do in this industry. It might only take you a day to create and write a great speech, but you can be paid $10,000 to $50,000 per speech as a professional speaker. If you give just 5 speeches in a year, was your time well spent? Most people would say yes. You can spend 2 weeks creating a weekend seminar, but charge $1,000 per ticket and get 500 people to attend, making a cool $500,000. You can spend a month planning and shooting videos for an online training program and then register 1,000 people at $100. That is $100,000 in a month. Time has little meaning when you are relating and creating in the expert world. I know all this sounds out of reach for most people, but you will see in chapter 6, and you'll hear that the Millionaire Messenger's money map in that chapter, how quickly you can add value and potentially make $1 million just by packaging your how-to advice and doing basic information marketing. Without a doubt, I'll be criticized by offering numbers here and talking about money in this way. But again, I think it's important for people to see the possibilities. You and I both know that some people will find success here and others will not. We all have different experience, skill, talent, ability, resources, and so on. I also know, after training tens of thousands of people just like you, that it is possible to become a highly paid expert, and it is surprisingly easy to begin. This book will prove that point, just as we've proven it at Experts Academy for years. 7, you do not need a large team. A dominant myth in our industry is that you need to have a big team to succeed. Surely, the guesswork goes, you must need a crack team of sales and marketing professionals to reach millions of people, right? This is an easy assumption to make, especially when you see your favorite gurus all over television and the internet. The reality is a very different picture, though, and something I learned firsthand. I remember attending a conference in 2007 held by Mark Victor Hansen of Chicken Soup for the Soul fame. At that time, Mark and co-creator Jack Canfield had a worldwide phenomenon on their hands, selling over 100 million copies of the book series and selling out events left and right. When I attended their event for authors hoping to create a similar successful empire, I went out of my way to meet and become friends with their staff members. I'll never forget when I met Lisa, a very kind and laid-back staff member, who told me that Mark's entire staff consisted of around 5 core team members and employees. A $100 million business of just 5 employees? I couldn't believe it. In the next 12 months, I befriended nearly every guru in the personal development and information marketing industry. And I found out that 5 employees was not, in fact, the norm. Most gurus had far fewer employees, if any at all. The average industry leader hired 1 to 3 full-time employees at some point, usually soon after they had quote-unquote made it. Most simply outsourced their needs on a project-by-project basis. Our industry is perfect for outsourcing. Most experts have short-term needs. Build a website, schedule interviews, shoot videos, respond to customers and fans, book travel, write and post articles, and so on. The dream life that Tim Ferriss painted in The 4-Hour Workweek, a life of leisure possible only because of virtual assistants and outsourced contractors, turns out to be a very accurate portrayal of what is reality or what is possible for entrepreneurial experts. At Experts Academy, there's always a lot of discussion about staffing and outsourcing. At one of our recent events, T. Harv Eker, the New York Times bestselling author of The Millionaire Mind, shared that he had made a horrible decision in hiring too many people. Like many others, he followed the advice of traditional businessmen and investors who have no idea how our industry works. I felt Harv's pain as he talked about needing to lay off employees because of overhiring. Here's a viewpoint I consistently have held for 3 years. Do not hire employees when you begin in this industry, period. Learn the skills you need to learn to master your own destiny. Here's my most controversial claim. If you ever have more than 10 employees in this industry, then you're doing one or more of the following. A, not hiring intelligently. B, not setting up your infrastructure intelligently. C, not leading and delegating intelligently. D, not partnering effectively. Or E, not outsourcing intelligently. I understand that sounds a little flippant, and I admit that if I was saying this 10 years ago, it would be foolish. However, it's hard to argue with me now that Thomas Friedman has proven we live in a flat world, and Daniel Pink has shown that we live in a free agent nation, and Ferris showed us all what is possible with virtual assistants and intelligent delegation. Stack on the ease of outsourcing that elance.com brought us, the advent of the print-on-demand manufacturing and distribution model, and the worldwide move to all things digital, and it's clear that the new model, the new business model for experts calls for few real employees, if any. Not only can I logically make this case, but at a tactical level, I've proven it in my own businesses and in the businesses of many of my clients. Personally, I built a multi-million-dollar expert business without a single employee, and I never hired a full-time team member until I cleared over $2 million in annual revenue. Bottom line, do not fear the staff monster, okay? Thousands of would-be experts stop in their tracks before ever starting because of this fear. You can become a master in this industry, and you can do it with minimal staffing expenses. 8. The tools for success are simple and cheap. The low barrier to entry in the expert industry set by outsourcing has been lowered even more by the advent of simple, cheap, and often free online tools and software programs that allow experts to spread their advice and message around the world. There was a time when the tools needed to succeed in the expert space were out of reach for most people. These tools included fancy websites, pricey customer relationship management software, expensive public relations, hands-off product manufacturers, large retail chains that guarded their gates from our products, and $1,000 plus studio time to record videos and audio programs. How times have changed. With a few mouse clicks, any expert in the world can have a website and blog, thanks WordPress, a social community, thanks Facebook, a public relations outlet, thanks Facebook, and again, your attention deficit cousin Twitter, a television station broadcasting around the world, thanks YouTube, built-in recording software on all new computers, thanks Apple, and an online storefront to accept money, thanks PayPal, Google, Checkout, and Yahoo Small Business, to name a few. The new reality presented in the preceding paragraph is one of the top reasons I felt it was time to write and release this book. The barrier to entry in the expert space has been destroyed. It's not just what we can do online now that impresses me. It's also what we can do in terms of creating, manufacturing, distributing, and fulfilling products. Less than a decade ago, experts had to go into a very expensive sound studio or television studios to record their audio and video training products. Then they had to have those recordings edited at a cost of thousands of dollars and finally sent to a manufacturer that demanded large order quantities to get a decent deal. Once created, products had to be shipped to distributors who would try to get our programs into stores and would take care of picking, packing, and shipping of the products. Today, this process has become cheap, easy, and fast. I can record an audio program from my computer or a video program from a simple-to-use $100 camera. Then I can email the file to a manufacturer who helps me design the product and also physically creates and ships the resulting how-to product. Here is what is most impressive. Manufacturers and distributors are essentially the same in our industry today. And they do not require us to create a ton of products that sit in a warehouse while we hope for orders to come in. Instead, in what's known as print-on-demand technology, manufacturers do not print any of your products until they're purchased. No inventory exists until a customer hits the checkout button on your website. And once they do, bang, the product is manufactured and shipped the same day without your lifting a finger. This was the game changer in our industry. Another innovation was customer relationship management software. The ability to capture customer name and emails, called leads, follow up with an automated sequence of emails, called autoresponders, and process customer orders online used to be something only well-established companies could afford. The days of horrifically hard tech setup and custom software integration ended with the bubble burst at the turn of the century. Today, you can have an online storefront and shopping cart set up in 1 hour for around $100 a month. The evolution of blogs and online content management programs has also changed the game and allowed us to easily create incredibly lucrative membership sites. It works like this. You put a bunch of how-to information and training content online for people to access either instantly or at specific times, and people pay you to access the site, thus becoming members. With online membership sites, you don't even have to create a physical product anymore, and our industry is moving more and more to the online delivery model. I recently had over 1,000 new customers sign up to access a members-only site that contained how-to information for building an expert empire. It happens in this industry all the time. 9. Financial income is disproportionate to any other industry. I've already spoken about the incredible financial rewards of being an expert, so it's not necessary to hammer this point further. However, before I show you how to become an expert in the next chapter and then how you might make your first $1 million in the chapter after that, I have a few points that might assist you. First, as hard as it may be, you may have to adjust your notion of money. To most people, money is a taboo topic, but if you choose this career, you are now in the business of sharing your message with the world. And business people talk about money. People will ask you how much you charge, how much you make, how much you keep, and so on. You will also have to start sharing details about your life with others if it's relevant to your topic. If you teach anything about making money or having financial abundance, people will naturally want to know about your own results in that area. So get used to it. You may also need to seriously re-examine your associations and ambitions related to money. What you learned about money from your parents, community, and the media may no longer serve you if you now have grander visions for helping more people in the world and, yes, in return, making more money. Dealing with the concept of money was very difficult for me personally, and honestly, sometimes still is. Today, I can send out an email and make $100,000 very quickly. I regularly turn away clients who want to pay me $50,000 a year for coaching. I am paid more to speak for 1 hour at a conference than my parents made in an entire year. I do not say any of this to brag, but to reveal something weird that you may come to relate. Helping people and making money at the same time can make us feel guilty, embarrassed, and uneasy. I know no one reads that last paragraph and says, oh, poor Brendan feels bad because he has so much money. So let's turn the lens from me to you for a moment. What would massive wealth mean to you? Would it be easy to explain to your family and friends? Would they be okay with you being a big-name guru? Would your current money mindset and conditioning allow you to keep your newfound wealth, or would you lose it quickly like all those lottery winners do? It's interesting to think about this. Guilt, embarrassment, and unease were my first reactions to wealth because of the way I was exposed, or perhaps unexposed, to money. I grew up in a small town, Butte, Montana. A century ago, Butte was a growing metropolis, one of the first 5 cities in the world to have electricity. You see, Butte was sitting on a massive amount of copper, and before steel took over, copper was king. Butte exploded with immigrants and miners from all over the world, especially Ireland. As happens in all hard labor industries, a quick distrust between the workers and those rich people quickly emerged. But soon copper would poison the land, steel and aluminum became more reliable and desirable, and Butte descended into a long and continual economic struggle. To this day, hanging over the town like a specter of death is a mile-deep and mile-wide pit of toxic waste from mining. Flocks of birds die when they land in it, and there's no way to decompose the stuff, making the Berkeley pit above Butte one of the world's biggest environmental disasters. To this day, wealthy people are looked upon with distrust, a look that says, those rich people. I know, I used to look at wealthy people that same way. We lived in Butte when I was very young, and it was not until much later in life that I discovered how tough we had it. I do remember one winter when the heater in our house broke. In Butte, it's a common for the temperature to drop to 10 to 30 degrees Fahrenheit below zero. So this was a life-threatening situation. To deal with the problem, my mom and dad grabbed the camping tent out of the garage and set up in our tiny living room. Then they threw all the sleeping bags and blankets and parkas they could into the tent, and we all huddled and camped in there for something like 2 weeks. Of course, we kids did not know it was such a dire situation, even though Mom ended up cooking dinner on Bunsen burners when our electricity went out in the storm. Instead, we kids were strutting into school announcing how cool we were because we were camping in our house. Upon sharing this memory decades later, my mom said to us, "Didn't you know we were camping because the heater was broke? And we were waiting for the next paychecks to come in so we could afford to fix it?" Silly story, I know, but it illustrates how we grew up. We grew up with nothing. No real material stuff, but we grew up with total abundance because of my parents' resourcefulness. It amazes me to this day how well they managed with 4 kids. But in the environment where I grew up, we never talked about money unless it was the stressful kind of talk. The money blueprint in my mind essentially said, we do not need any money because we can get by, and besides, no one likes rich people. That's a very different blueprint than one that I've had to adopt as a business person who says, profit wildly so that you can continue to reach more people with your message. In earning greater wealth, I've felt guilty for having more than I need because of my background, and also because I see others out there with just as an important message who are struggling. That's why I've turned my guilt into galvanization to help others find and share their voice. This has helped me no longer be embarrassed about building wealth because it's also tied the act to making a difference. As a final thought, everyone I ever met has an uneasiness with making or keeping money. Volumes could be written about why we need stability and certainty in our financial lives. Instead, let me leave you with a simple thought. If people spent as much time worrying about how to make a difference as they do about how they could make money, then they would soon find themselves rich beyond belief. I hope this chapter has provided some insight into what being an entrepreneurial expert means, the calling itself, and the lifestyle. You can have an extraordinary lifestyle in business simply by sharing your message with others. When you do it well enough, one day you become a millionaire messenger.